dedicated to serving underrepresented communities and addressing health disparities. Founded in 1966 to increase healthcare access in Los Angeles following the Watts riot, the university named after the pioneering physician Charles R. Drew, who made significant contributions to blood preservation. CDU has grown to include several buildings, diverse academic programs, and a committed faculty and student body. Most students come from underrepresented communities and plan to serve those communities after graduation. With a strong commitment to social justice and health equity, the university leads multiple partnerships and programs to provide fair healthcare resources in various Los Angeles neighborhoods. Thank you to CDU for being today's College Spotlight.
Oh, we are live.
We are. Hey everyone.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Reverend Edward Hardison II. I am the youth minister here at Greater Temple Missionary Baptist Church.
And my name is Edward L. Hardison III. I am that one's son, and I come from the same place. I'm a deacon now, not actually junior deacon.
Not a deacon yet.
Not a deacon?
There's a whole process for
Okay,
that. Don't worry.
so am I still a junior deacon right now?
Well, you've aged out of that.
So I'm in limbo right now.
Now you're just in limbo.
Well, we got to change that. I got to be a deacon somehow, Father.
Well, you got to go through the entire process. You got to be chosen. There's a whole thing. We'll go through all of that later.
Ooh, Lord.
All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our Profiles in the Bible. Tonight we will be studying a young man named Joseph, the Old Testament Joseph.
Yep.
Jacob's son.
That great person. What would we call him? A oracle, a prophet, a mind reader, a dream sayer.
A dream seer, you say? Well, as always, we want to turn to the scripture for our actual descriptions of Joseph. Everybody knows Joseph interpreted dreams.
Yep.
I think a lot of times things get caught up and lost about Joseph. So let's start in Joseph's childhood.
All right.
So Joseph had a mama and a daddy. And for those following along, we are going to the 37th chapter of Genesis.
Towards the beginning of the Bible.
Oh, yeah. Well, Genesis is literally the first book of the Bible.
Yep.
Now, Jacob, Joseph's father, has had his name changed to Israel because of his relationship with God. He's made a covenant with him. And now, Jacob is having some children. This is the same Jacob from Esau. Jacob had 12 sons. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. That's the name there.
What?
Rachel's children were Joseph and Benjamin. Now, by Rachel's slave or handmaiden, he also had a son named Bilhah. Bilhah was her name, Rachel's servant. And she had two sons, Dan and Nephtali. I'm sure I butchered that. Leah's female servant had whose name was Zilpath was named Gad and Asher. These were the 12 sons of Jacob. Now, if these names sound familiar, it's because these are also the names of the tribes of Israel.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Now, and we'll study Jacob and Esau and all of them later. But one thing to know is that Jacob really liked his wife, Rachel. He didn't really like Rachel's sister all that much, Leah.
Oh.
Yeah, he had to grow to that. Rachel's the one he wanted, but Leah being older, her father convinced him to marry Leah first and then get several more years for Rachel. It's a whole mess. It's a big bunch of mess. So, Jacob, now named Israel, has a habit of kind of liking his younger sons, Benjamin and Joseph, a little bit more than the other ones. And Joseph was his favorite.
Ah.
Now, I know parents are not supposed to have favorite children.
No, I'm convinced that y'all have y'all's favorite, but just to save the self-esteem of your children, you don't say it because I know that Ace is your favorite. I know that it's Asa,
Well, son,
and
let me be
it's
very clear.
okay.
Let me be very
You've
clear.
only dealt with me for 18 years.
Allow me to be very clear. I do not have a favorite child.
It's okay.
Mainly because the three of you act just alike.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, I think Asa might be my sweetest child, and you are my most stoic child.
Hey,
And Idris is a bit of a rider, and that's okay. But no, you all three pretty much act the same. And
well,
I would never choose you based on how you act. I love all three of you.
Ace is still his favorite. He just doesn't want to say it. We already.
Don't have a favorite. Let's start there. I do not have a favorite. I love all three of you, but I could lock all three of you outside for hours if I could.
Wow.
Just to get some peace and quiet because you all are such lovely, wonderful people.
Wow.
And I love you for that. Thank you.
Wow.
I said you're wonderful.
Anyways.
So anyway, but no, I really don't have a favorite. I don't want anybody thinking I have a favorite child. I love all of my children equally. Differently, but equally.
As long as I'm not getting swaddled again.
You asked to be swaddled. That is what you asked for. I gave you what you wanted, and now I'm the bad guy.
Yep.
So messed up.
That's just how it be.
That's so messed
just
up.
how it be sometimes.
I just don't understand. You give people what they ask you for. What are you getting into? Anyway, Joseph kind of knew he was the favorite. So
it was quite obvious that he was the favorite, though.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it was quite obvious, but you know, it's one of those things where you're not supposed to know, but I guess Joseph knew
that
yes.
He had a multicolored outfit. It was clear that he was the favorite.
Well, no, okay. There's no proof that the other brothers didn't have nice clothing.
It was mentioned in the Bible what type of clothing Joseph had specifically. It's clear that the rest of his brother's clothing were not as extravagant, not as colorful, at least, as the stuff that Joseph had. Okay. He was the clear favorite.
Okay. The Bible's clear that when Joseph was about 17, this is chapter 37, verse 2, that Joseph, who was out working with his brothers in the field, he was still kind of young. But Joseph was a snitch. It says Joseph brought back a bad report about all of them to their father. Joseph was tattling on his brothers.
Yeah, that's what all younger siblings do.
Again, I will not confirm that because I don't know. I was an older sibling, and
you know you got snitched on.
Absolutely, Brittany absolutely was a disaster to be around, even when I hadn't done anything.
Hi, Auntie Brittany.
Anyway, verse 3 tells us clearly that Israel, aka Jacob, loved Joseph more than he did his other sons.
Yeah.
And he made for him
a tunic of multiple colors. Like, if that doesn't scream, yeah, this one's my favorite.
Okay, now, I'll give you that. But, to be fair, that's not Joseph's fault. That's Jacob's fault. It is.
It is not Joseph's fault, no.
Joseph didn't ask those things.
He just got it because his father has a favorite son.
Now, this is where I do blame Joseph. You drop down to verse 5. Then Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers.
Oh,
and they hated him even more. He said, please, listen to this dream that I've had.
Ah, yes. Because being the widely known favorite of your father isn't bad enough. I'm going to have this dream.
Yeah. And this dream is so ridiculous that he tells his older siblings that they were going to bow down to him one day. Now, here's the thing. The dream was a legitimate dream. He had the dream. The problem I have with Joseph here is that
You didn't need to
you
say
didn't have
that.
to say it. You kept that to yourself.
Could have told your father. Like, y'all clearly have a
You could just shut up. Like, he didn't have to tell anybody any of this stuff.
But he wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. So let's keep that in mind when we're rating later.
Yeah.
So his brothers, rightfully so, got indignant, and they didn't like him. Nothing wrong. It's not right to hate your brother.
Okay.
I get it.
They love him, but they do not like him.
Oh, scripture says they hated him.
Oh.
Then he had another dream, and he went back.
This one is worse.
He told his brothers.
This is a worse one than the other one.
That he had another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon,
the
and
stars.
11 stars will be bowing down to me.
Oh, everything's bowing down to this man now with the multicolored tunic. Oh man, look at Skittles over here.
Oh man, and of course, Jacob, understanding what was going on, told him, hey, look, chill out. Are you really telling me that me, your mama, and everybody will be bowing down to you? That's crazy, right? You tripping. But his brothers got jealous. So, as we know, his brothers got indignant with him. They kicked up a plan to sell him into slavery.
They did not originally plan to sell him into slavery.
Well, no, they didn't originally plan. No.
They were going to...
Let's be happy they decided to sell
him because they were just about to throw him down a well and leave him.
Yeah. I mean, Joseph was annoying, but you can't kill your brother for being annoying.
No.
That's ridiculous.
Now, you can't smack them. You can throw them. And you can do a various means of things.
I just remember, younger siblings get a lot of get back in the Bible. So they threw him down this well with no water. So he landed at the bottom of it. That had to be painful.
Yeah, that had to hurt. No water.
Then they took his coat, put some blood on it, and said, "Oh my God. Oh my God. My brother's dead." Ooh.
Fake.
But they sold him. Reuben went back to the pit. Joseph was not in the pit, so he tore his garments. The boy is not there. Where am I to go? They slaughtered the goat, took it back to their brother, and was like, "Hey, he tripping. He got sold." And he was sold into Egypt, into slavery in Egypt.
Yep.
He ended up being bought by this cat named Potiphar.
Potiphar.
Now, Potiphar was the captain of the Pharaoh's bodyguard. He was one of Pharaoh's top officers.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joseph is now down there in the midst of nowhere, going through it. We'll skip on over to Genesis 39, because that's what Joseph's story picks up again.
All right.
So Joseph is down in Egypt. He's been bought by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. And he got bought from the Ishmaelites. But God was with him. And everywhere Joseph went was blessed. So much so that Potiphar's house became blessed because Joseph was there. So much so that Joseph was then put in charge of the man's house, everything he owned.
Imagine your aura being that blessed.
Well, not your aura, your spirit. That God being with you.
The kids say aura now.
Well, they can say what they want to, but aura is something that's not Christian. And since we are a Christian podcast Bible study, we're going to stick with the Christian terms and the godly terms.
Our spirit. Imagine just...
And it's not his spirit, it's God's spirit shining within it.
Yeah, like
you said, let my light so shine that men will see me and know that you are working within me.
Mm-hmm.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Are you letting your light shine, son?
Yeah.
Is it a good light?
Yeah.
Is it a bright light?
I would say so.
Okay, well, let's hope. So, Potiphar left Joseph in charge of everything. And he did not concern himself with anything except the food that he was going to eat. Now, there's a problem that happens in the lives of young men that are considered highly attractive and successful. You will attract women. And Joseph's master, Potiphar, had a wife. And she made an offer. Told him, come sleep with me. But Joseph refused. He said, anything. And now you down here trying to get myself in trouble.
How diabolical.
Hey man, that's what happens. Well, Joseph was like, nah. No, he's trusted me with everything, and he's held nothing from me except you because you were his wife. I would never do this great evil. And notice what he says here, and sin against God. Joseph understood who was blessing him, and he understood who he would sin against. So she spoke to Joseph day after day after day. And of course, he did his best to be away from her. Yada, yada, yada. But one of them days, she caught him slipping, or as they say, lacking. She caught him to sleep with me. He got up out of there so fast, he left his coat and clothes behind. When she saw that he had left this stuff, she starts yelling out to the men of the household, oh, he done brought this old Hebrew down here to me to make fun of us, and he came here and tried to rape me. You've been trying to get me. I keep telling you no. Whew. Well, Potiphar did what any good man or husband would do in the situation. He got rid of Joseph. Had him locked up. And he was mad with him. You know, you did this to me. How could you do this to me? Put him in prison with the king's prisoners. Now, this is a bad situation, but
God's still with him.
God is still with him. So much so that even in prison, he has now found safe favor inside of the warden of the prison. So much so that once again, he is now put over everything. And nothing that Joseph supervised did the warden even
concern himself with.
There's no point.
Yeah, Joseph's got it.
Now, we often talk about Joseph's dream interpretations.
Yep.
But I heard another preacher preaching about this, and this is what he said about Joseph's true talents. He said Joseph's true talents lied in his administration skills.
Yeah.
Every time you see Joseph left to his own devices, what rises to the top is the fact that he's really good at organizing and keeping track and doing the things he needs to do. It's pretty good.
Yeah. He makes sure to the point where stuff that you would concern yourself with, and now it's no longer even a thought in your mind after Joseph.
You're not even thinking about it
Bruh.
anymore. That's pretty impressive.
That's nearly like automatic how it's going.
Yep. So they're in jail, in prison. Then the cupbearer and the baker get put in jail. The Pharaoh was mad at these two people. Now, for those of you that don't know, these are the two people that were responsible for the Pharaoh's food. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The baker did the cooking, and the cupbearer's job is one of the most important and trusted in the kingdom. The cupbearer was the one that brought the food to the Pharaoh and would taste it to make sure it wasn't poisoned.
Yeah.
So, these are two people you had to put a lot of trust in because not everybody was happy with the king, or in this case, the Pharaoh. So, he put him in confinement, threw him in prison where Joseph was, and now Joseph is in charge of them too. And then they start having dreams. Each one had a dream, same night, and each dream had its own interpretation. So Joseph came in the morning and saw that they were dejected or upset. He asked Pharaoh's officials who were with him in confinement in his master's house, why are you so sad? Told him we had a dream and there's nobody to interpret it. Do interpretations not belong to God? Tell me, please. So the cupbearer starts and he tells him his dream. He says, in my dream, there's a vine in front of me. And on the vine, there were 3 branches. And as if they were budding, the blossoms came out. The clusters produced ripe grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, so I took them and squeezed them out and put them into Pharaoh's hand. Joseph said, "These branches in 3 days, and within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift your head and restore you to your office." So he gave the cupbearer good news.
Yeah,
Hey,
your job's coming back.
in 3 days, you'll be back. Everything's going to work out. Don't worry. He tells him in verse 14, "Hey, but listen, when you get there, keep me in mind, right?
Like, hey, spread some goodwill.
Just mention how I did my job, that I was good, cool." The baker saw that his dream had been interpreted favorably and said, hey, listen, in my dream, I saw 3 baskets of white bread on my head. And the baskets, there was some kind of bread, all kinds of bread that were baked for the Pharaoh, and the birds were eating them out of my head. Then Joseph said, "The 3 baskets in 3 days. And within 3 more days, Pharaoh will lift your head, and he will hang you from a wooden post, and the birds are going to eat all your flesh."
Well,
3rd day was the Pharaoh's birthday. Now, in ancient times, birthdays were days of big feasts and parties for royalty, but there were also days that people could basically make petitions and big things would happen in the king's court.
okay.
Excuse me. Well, he lifted up the head of the cupbearer and the head of the chief baker. He restored the cupbearer to his office, and the cupbearer got to put a cup into his hand, and he hanged the baker just as Joseph had told him.
Yep.
Yet the cupbearer didn't remember Joseph.
Yeah, I forgot him.
Be like that, right?
Now, I give you peace of mind and solace that you're gonna get your job back. Yes. Everything is good, and you didn't even remember little old me.
Now, here's the beauty of the way God works. Everything has a time and a season, right?
Yeah.
For all we know, it just wasn't Joseph's time yet. The Pharaoh might have said a good thing, and the cupbearer may have said something good to the Pharaoh. And, it's just, all right, well, okay, fine, let him out. Instead, what happens is Pharaoh has a dream. This is 2 full years later.
Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh has a dream that he's standing by the Nile. And the Nile has 7 cows that came up to it. Fine, fat-looking cows. And they grazed in the marsh. Then the 7 other cows came up. They were ugly and thin. And they stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. Then the 7 ugly ate the 7 fine-looking fat calves. And the Pharaoh awake. But he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. This time it was 7 ears of grain that came up on a single stalk, plump and good. Then behold, thin and scorched by the east wind, 7 more ears sprouted up, and the thin ears swallowed up the plump ears. Pharaoh awoke because it was a dream. And in the morning he was stressed.
That's how it would be too.
Yeah,
having 2 dreams do essentially the exact same thing back to.
Well, not just that. Not just that. Check this out. Cows are herbivores. They don't eat other cows.
And last I checked, plants don't eat other plants.
Exactly. So now you having dreams about killer cows and plants? Like that's gotta be stressful. So Pharaoh sent for all his wise men, his soothsayers, and everybody he could think of. He told them a dream, and nobody had any answers for him. He comes an old dusty cupbearer. He said, "Oh, well, listen. There was this dude I was in prison with.
Who? Really good at interpreting dreams."
Yeah. So, he told me what was going to happen, and boom. Exactly what he told me would happen, happened. And exactly what she told me would happen to the baker happened. 3 days later, just like you said. So Pharaoh sent word for Joseph. Got him out of the dungeon. Jesus. Shaved him up, put on nice clothes, and took him to the Pharaoh. Pharaoh tells him his dream, goes into detail, and then he told him, look, can't nobody here explain to me what's going on. Scripture says in verse 25, Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams are one and the same. God has told the Pharaoh what he's about to do. The 7 good years is 7 years. 7 good years. And the 7 good years are 7 years. The dreams are one and the same. The 7 thin, ugly cows and the 7 ears of scorched corn or grain, they represent a famine of 7 years. So, because God has showed Pharaoh what he was about to do and made a way for his God to come up and be the one to interpret it, they were able to come up with a plan. And a pretty good plan. Pharaoh then put Joseph over the, over everything, over this project.
Because that's what Joseph does best.
Joseph is clearly a dope
An
administrator.
organized individual that
Yeah.
people can look at and say, yeah.
And let's be clear, I'm one of those people that would need a Joseph in my life because I am not the most organized person.
I am not an organized person.
But because we know that, that means we have to keep people around us that are both trustworthy and very good at administration. That's what Anaya does really well. She's really good at administering. So I get out of her way and I let her be what she needs to be because that helps me.
Yeah.
So then there was 7 years of good stuff, and Joseph collected a fifth of all that was produced and put it in back,
Yeah,
in
for
stores.
savings.
And then he told them, let's use this food as reserve for the land, because in 7 years it's gonna get rough.
It's gonna be a famine.
And then there was a famine. But before that, Pharaoh liked Joseph's thought process and planning so well that he made him one of the rulers of Egypt.
Like, dog.
Yeah, like you came out of the dungeon.
And immediately shot up to administrating a project that saved the Pharaoh's kingdom, and then you became a ruler yourself. Like, dog.
Now, I want you to see this. It wasn't just Joseph's skill that got him to this point. Pharaoh says in verse 39 that God has informed you of this, and there is no one who is discerning or as wise as you are. You will be in charge of
my house and my people.
And these people will be obedient to you. Only in regard to the throne am I greater than you. The Pharaoh understood God was working with this man, and everybody wants God on their side. So he brought God's man to the house and said, hey,
look,
it's yours.
Look, we talk about Joseph, but Pharaoh's smart.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this guy is blessed by who? Give him whatever he needs, whatever he wants, give it to him.
So much so that in 44, Pharaoh says to Joseph, though I am Pharaoh, yet without your permission shall no one raise his hand or foot in all of Egypt. He went even so far that he gave him a wife.
Like, everything that he could want and need.
And this is at 30. Remember, he was sold about 17.
Mm-hmm.
13 years later, he's now second in command in what is probably the richest nation at the time on the planet. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, during the 7 years of good times, Joseph was out there collecting that grain. Notice, Joseph was putting in that work.
He wasn't just sitting back. Even though he was at an elevated power and probably had people that could do it himself, he was still out there doing the work.
He was out there doing the work. Now, we'll come back to these lessons. But yeah, he was out there doing the work. He didn't just rest on what was happening, what had happened. So, as chapter 41 comes to an end, chapter 42 starts, there's a famine in the land. Go figure.
Oh, wow.
So now, the famine has hit everybody. Like, it wasn't just in Egypt.
No,
the famine hit the land. Everybody was affected. So Jacob heard about the grain in Egypt, and he said to his sons, why are y'all looking at one another? Basically, why y'all sitting right here at this house?
Go get bread.
I heard there's some grain down there in Egypt. Here's some money. Go get us some food so that we won't die. But Jacob did not send Joseph's whole brother Benjamin with his brothers. He said, I'm afraid that harm may happen to him. Jacob was shell shocked, PTSD, if you will.
Mm. Yeah, he likes his youngest sons.
Well, those weren't his youngest. He liked those two because they were the children of Rachel. Now, he had them when he was older. They were near the bottom, but they weren't necessarily the youngest.
Mm.
So, Joseph was now ruler over the land and the one who sold the grain. Now, Joseph's brother came, they bowed with their faces to the ground, and when he saw their brothers, he recognized them.
Oh, hey, guys.
But he disguised himself and spoke to them very harshly. Now, a couple things here. Every culture has differences in how they dress, how they talk, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
Egypt was no different. The Egyptians did things like shave all their hair because of lice. They painted on eyebrows and all the other stuff. They were very painted people. They were very culturally different. So it's very possible that they were in Joseph's presence and just didn't recognize him. But Joseph, seeing his brothers as they were, because they were still dressing the same, stuff was the same, he recognized him. And then he called him out and he talked real bad to him.
Yeah. You guys are spies.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, which is crazy. And I mean, some of this is some get back. I get it. They just said, no, we just here to buy food. Look, we honest. He told him, look, your servants, 12 brothers in all, sons, Joseph said to him, I say your spies by this should be tested, but like Pharaoh, you should not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. I was wrong. Benjamin is the youngest.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah. Send one of you two. You go get that brother. You come back with him. Now, if you a spy, you won't bring your brother back. Put them all in prison. So, Joseph says to him, if you are honest men, let one of your brothers confined in prison. Let one of your brothers be confined. Carry the grain for the famine to your households, but bring your younger brother back to me so that your words will be verified. And I ain't got to hunt you down. So it's one of those things. So Reuben speaks up, look, did I not tell you, you do not sin against the boy? You would not listen. Justice, because remember, the brother they're asking for is Benjamin. Yeah. Everybody knows why Benjamin can't come because of how they treated Joseph.
Yeah.
So Joseph gave orders: fill their bags and return their money. Give them provisions. They loaded the donkeys up, grain. But when I opened the sack, he found when he opened the sack to feed the donkeys at the overnight campsite, he saw his money. It was in the opening of his sack. He said, "This brother, my money has been returned, and look, it is right in my sack." They were terrified because they thought they had robbed Pharaoh's number one dude. Oh man, like this is, whew. So they empty their sacks, money's there. Their father Jacob, you deprived me of my son. Joseph is gone, and now Simeon, who was left as a hostage, is stuck there. Reuben spoke to his dad, listen, kill my two sons if I don't bring them back, but we really need to take this dude down there to this man, or he gonna kill us, Pop. And that is where 42 ends and 43 picks up. So they convince Jacob to send his son back. It's just, whoo, it's rough on these boys. So basically in 43, they return. Joseph sees his brother. And, Joseph has a moment. These are people he hadn't seen in 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
And while they were mean to him,
still family.
Yeah, they're still his brothers, man. They returning money because they're scared. He brought Simeon out when they brought the brothers back. All of that stuff goes well. And he asks him, "Well, is your father? How is your dad doing? Is he alive?" Because again, this is his dad.
Yeah, he hasn't seen him, so he's like, "How was your father? How was dad for me?" Like this is something he's asking in a way that doesn't seem suspicious, but he's asking for himself.
Yeah. No,
he
wants
wants
to know
comfort right now.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where while Joseph has every right to be vindictive, and let's be clear, he doesn't really know how his brothers feel about him. After all, they did try to kill him and then sold him.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal for him, but he knew he was close to Benjamin. He sees Benjamin become so overwhelmed that he takes off out of the room. He hurried out because it was improper for him to be seen in that manner. Washed his face, gathered himself, and went back to being Joseph, second in control of the Egyptians. But then they get to the table, and he feeds his other brothers well. But Benjamin's portion is 5 times as much as theirs.
Yeah.
That's funny. So again, Joseph tells them, "Hey, fill up their bags, give them back their money, put my cup, the silver cup, in the opening of their sack." And they did it, and then it was time for them to go. And once again, well, this time Joseph sends them out like, "Hey, follow them. When you overtake them, rough them up a little bit and say, 'Hey, man, are you stealing from? What not good to you? How you gonna steal from me, bro? What are you doing?'" So, I mean, all of this is ridiculous because you don't have to do all this. But
set him up for sabotage. Like,
then he took.
Hey, these guys just robbed us. We should, get our money back. You know what I'm saying? Just.
He took Benjamin. Like, come on. All right, I get it. I get why you do it. Why you gonna take Benjamin? Now, I don't know what he was thinking, except for he was really close to his brother.
I don't think he was doing taking Joseph just for vindictive purposes. I think he just wanted to see Joseph again. See Benjamin again, because out of all of his brothers, Ben is the smaller one.
So,
even though him taking Benjamin almost got everybody.
And here's the part that sucks about being selfish. He had to know that it would be hard on his dad. Except he wasn't thinking about that.
He was finding out the pettiest way to get his get back.
Which is hilarious.
But I can't say it's unwarranted. Like, do you know what you subjected me to? You tried to kill me.
Yeah.
The only one who didn't is the one I'm going to treat good.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're robbers. Go beat them up for me. Thank you.
So.
That's an image.
So they go, and it's all this crazy stuff. And so this is 45. He brought him back. Joseph can't hold himself anymore. He sends out all of his Egyptian servants, and he's just so overcome with emotion that he reveals himself to his brothers, and then he had an emotional release. Look, it's me, it's Joseph. His brothers were so stunned that they couldn't even answer the man's question. Is my father alive, brother?
Is he good? Is he well? Yeah, I'm Joseph. I'm the one. How is the old man?
Then, in verse 4, he gets snippy with him again.
Bruh.
Right. It's me. The one you sold into Egypt.
If you don't answer my question.
But then you can see the wisdom of Joseph come out of him. He says, "Look, don't be angry. I'm not mad at you. Don't be grieved with yourself. Yeah, you sold me here, but
Hey, look where I'm at.
God did this for us. Because think about it. Had Joseph not been there, nobody would have interpreted the dream.
And everything would have gone to crap.
Everybody would have been dead
from the famine.
Mm-hmm. So he told him, listen, everything is okay. Now, go tell my father everything you've seen here. Go get my daddy, go get my folk, bring him back. Pharaoh heard that that the people that were there were Joseph's brothers, and he told them, load your livestock and go down to Canaan. Take your father and all of his household, and I'll give them the best land in Egypt. We got stuff. Go get your people and bring them here.
Bruh, do you know what you've done for me? This is the least I can do. Get your family.
Go get them.
Bring them here. They won't have to know hardship.
So Jacob and his folk moved to Egypt, and Jacob is excited.
I think it's funny because the Pharaoh commands him. We see in 19, now you are commanded to do this.
No,
like,
go get them.
Like, bro,
go tell them to get you back in. Let's go.
Yeah. This wasn't a suggestion. Go get them. So,
Jacob is so overcome that he'll get to see his favorite child again. Jacob ain't learned the lessons either.
No.
So, everybody comes down to Egypt. They all get to see Joseph be that dude. Pharaoh gives them choice land. All of this stuff happens. And they survive this famine because of a setup from God in the first place.
Yep.
So, Israel lived in Egypt, in Goshen. And he lived there, and Jacob lived for 147 years. Then he called Joseph and all his children together, and he basically gave them instructions, and he blessed them. And he does a whole bunch of stuff that goes on with Joseph and his son when Jacob is blessing the children. He wanted him to do some things, but Israel says to Joseph, "Look, I'm about to die. God will be with you. He'll bring you back to the land that he promised your fathers. Mm-hmm. But I need you to understand that God is in control and God's going to do this stuff." So Jacob goes on to give prophecies before he dies. And then he dies at the end of 49. We're going to 50, and the only reason we're going to get this far is because, this is when Joseph dies. But one of the funniest things I found out of this was that Pharaoh tells him, look, go ahead, bury your people. He, so the process of embalming at the time was a very long process.
Yeah, it says 40 days.
40 days.
Sweet Jesus.
But the Egyptians actually cried and mourned with Joseph
for 70
more days. Tells him, look, I need to go dig this grave. I've already dug it. It's there. Pharaoh says, go, bury your people. We'll be here when you get back.
Yeah.
He even sends chariots, teams of horses to make sure everything goes well. Like it's a big deal. Now, what was funny was down in verse 15.
They still scared.
Well, yeah, they scared.
Like, bro, our dad's dead. Joseph might still hate us.
We are in trouble.
Oh, we're screwed.
So they go through this whole rigmarole. Joseph finally says to him,
bruh,
listen, I'm not going to judge you. I am not in God's place. And Joseph says one of the most profound things any human being has ever said. As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring you to this present place, to keep my people, many people alive. Don't be afraid. I'm not even mad at you. I will provide for you and your little ones. So then the Bible skips ahead to Joseph's death. Joseph died at about the age of 110. They embalmed him and they put him in a coffin in Egypt. And that is how Genesis ends.
That is the end of the Genesis.
Yeah, because that's actually the beginning of what we would later call the nation of Israel, or the Israelites. All right, so let's talk. It's time to do some rating.
I need to change one of my ratings.
No. All right. Wait, you want to change your rating?
I want to change my rating.
Which rating would you like to change?
I want to bump down Noah to an 8.
Why?
Because Joseph is a 9.
They can both be 9s.
Okay.
But
Noah a 9, Joseph a 9.5.
Well, let's talk about Joseph. So let's start in childhood.
He was a naive teen.
He was not naive. He was a jerk.
He was a naive teen that was full of himself.
Brat.
Do you see his daddy? Did you see his father? He had every right to be spoiled. I'm spoiled. The only difference is I don't have a multicolored fleece. Where's my fleece at, Father?
Well, again, that was for his favorite child.
You can get us all fleeces.
And Joseph is the very reason why I will never have a favorite child. All of this happened because Joseph was a little jerk for knowing he was his father's favorite.
Everyone knew he was his father's favorite.
Everybody knew. That is why I'll never have a favorite child.
Now, I do not think Joseph should have rubbed it in.
Yeah, he was a jerk about it.
That was jerkish, but at this point he was 17.
Old enough to know better.
Yes, old enough to know better, but he's still young.
He's still young, but he should have known better. So, Joseph grows. He gets some bad things that happen to him. One of the things I like about Joseph is the way he responds to adversity.
He lived through it all.
Well, he doesn't just live through it. He thrives in it. And here's what I mean. Bad things happen. It's just a part of life.
Joseph made the best out of every bad situation.
Really he took these horrible situations and rose to the top because of who he was. Because he was an administrator. Because he did have the ability to interpret dreams when the time came. Because he was a good and upstanding person. Think about it. When Potiphar's wife came after him, he could have easily violated this woman or violated that woman's marriage and then violated Potiphar's trust. That wouldn't have taken away from his skill set. That would have taken away from his morality.
Yeah.
That's my issue with Samson. Samson had a chance to be moral and never did. He had a chance to be what God called him to be and just wouldn't. And he wouldn't even apologize for it.
No.
At least when David did something he was called out for it, he would
immediately dropped.
This joker would go out there, no, you're wrong. Do better.
Still a 3.
He might go down to a 2. Samson's a bum.
Free Samson. Free my boy Samson.
Lock him up, cut his hair off. I got clippers. What about clippers?
And they out of reach.
Yeah.
Don't worry about him. Free my boy.
Well, listen, Samson ain't going nowhere. He under the rocks.
That's wrong, Father.
Yeah, it's wrong. Right?
It's rude.
Anyway, I love the way Joseph overcame adversity. Like he
was in prison, and people said he's basically just another warden.
Yeah. Who's handling that? Oh no, we gotta hear about that, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm like,
like that is a good thing. It is a great thing to be known as somebody that is not affected or not destroyed when bad things happen.
Man, let's be fair. He was not in short of bad things happening to him.
Nah.
Like, since his childhood, he's been getting...
Yeah.
But the best thing happening to him was him becoming his father's favorite. Like, let's be fair. That was the catalyst for what we see now in Joseph.
Yeah, God could have easily worked it out differently.
However...
Joseph had to be humble.
Yeah.
But so...
And what better way to humble somebody?
Enslavement? No, sir. My blackness will never allow me to agree with that statement. You can get out of
You weren't your father's favorite, though. Your father didn't have favorites. Your father didn't give their favorite child a fleece of multicolors.
Anyway, no, my parents did not have a favorite, they say.
See? Now you would know if you would have been a catalyst in the next Pharaoh, second in command of Egypt.
I would have sold Brittany down the river in a heartbeat.
Wow.
Sell her right on up. I tried to sell Brittany a couple times when she was younger. But anyway, I didn't want a sister. I wanted a brother. Anyway.
That's fair.
Anyway.
So, hi, Auntie Brittany.
Hi, Britt. Anyway, as we sit here and we watch Joseph, let's talk about our takeaways. What would be your major takeaway from the life of Joseph?
Life of Joseph. Despite what may happen to you in your life, stay true to God. Understand that He is always with you, and good things will come. Even if it takes 7 years of famine, you will still arise prosperous.
That's a good one. I think my takeaway would be, number one, when you find your God-given gifts and talents, live and thrive in that. Number two, and I've tried to live this one, don't let bad things destroy your day, your life, or your destiny. Joseph could have easily gotten depressed and down about this stuff, but he didn't. He made sure he made a way to keep his head up and to keep everything going good. So,
yep.
All right, it's time for the rating.
Yeah. Y'all already heard mine.
So you got Joseph at what, a 9.5?
9.5.
I'm going to give Joseph a solid 8.
An 8?
It's first of all, it's hard to deal with younger siblings. Younger siblings suck.
That's the I was debating putting him at an 8.5, but I feel like it's Joseph. Like I can't, as much as I despise him being a younger brother. Like that so close. You're so close, Joseph.
It was a jerkishness in which he handled his siblings. I love his morality. I love his ability to stay positive in bad situations. He's gonna lose a point for not being the oldest.
Yeah.
And
8.5. 8.5. Sorry, Joseph.
I wonder what Joseph did that made his brothers think he might still be angry after all those years. I wonder. Now, I don't know, and I don't have a thing.
Probably the Silver Cup incident.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have to do that. You could have just, and that's why I have to still chip away a little bit at it. But I'm going to say 8.5. I like Joseph. I think Joseph is a model for all of us to.
Like, Joseph and Noah have been some of the best people we've seen. Now, you still rip on Noah for.
He's an alcoholic. Let's stop.
He was on the water for how long again?
And the first thing he did was find wine. That's his problem.
He still grew it. No. He still was a farmer and grew this stuff. Now, what he chooses to do with it is none of our business.
Let me mute your microphone so I can get us out of here. So, we thank you for coming out tonight. We are happy to have you out here with us tonight. I don't know if it was still working. That's funny. I think I could not cut you off.
Free my boy Samson.
So, we thank you for coming out. I got you muted now. We appreciate you for being here with us. We really do appreciate it. Again, if you have any suggestions on who we should study and profile next, we look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the chat, or if you don't feel comfortable in the chat, send us a message. We do check them. We are here. We would love to hear back from you.
Yeah.
Any last words now that you're unmuted?
Free Samson. No. Hashtag free.
And he's muted again. All right. We love you. We thank you. Good night. If you are interested in learning more about Jesus and how he has restored our relationship with God, we invite you to accept him into your hearts. We want you to do this so that your transformation can happen. And we want you to reach out to us so that we can talk more about the way you are feeling and your next steps. We love you, and we hope that you know that Jesus loves you as well. He died for your sins, and he was resurrected for your faith.